The morning had an electric anticipation as Samuel L. Jackson, the iconic Hollywood powerhouse known for his fierce delivery and uncompromising views, was set to appear live on The View. Producers were banking on his magnetic presence to elevate the ratings, especially with recent lukewarm episodes. The panel was prepped with questions that covered a range of topics from his new film to political and social discourse. But everyone knew when Samuel was in the building, things could go off-script fast. Joy Behar, never one to back away from a fight, had already hinted in pre-show banter that she intended to poke the bear if necessary. That phrase would become oddly prophetic by the end of the day. At first, everything went well. Samuel, cool and composed in his dark sunglasses and signature leather jacket, laughed heartily, shared stories from his career, and gave the audience those iconic moments they came for. But then the tone shifted when the conversation edged into politics, more specifically race and accountability in Hollywood. Joy Behar raised a question with an edge in her voice, asking Samuel how he reconciled playing violent or aggressive characters while simultaneously advocating for peace and justice in society. Samuel blinked, tilted his head, and answered, "I'm an actor. I tell stories. Don't confuse the character with the man." That's like blaming Pacino for crime rates. The audience chuckled, but Joy wasn't satisfied. She pressed further, suggesting that Samuel's roles often reinforce stereotypes about black masculinity. The air grew noticeably tenser. Samuel responded with a controlled smirk. "So now I'm responsible for how white America interprets fiction? Come on, Joy, that ain't the lane you want to take with me." Whoopi Goldberg, perhaps sensing what was coming, tried to pivot the conversation, but Joy wouldn't let it go. She cited academic studies and framed her argument in the language of progressive critique. But Samuel interrupted, saying, "You know what your problem is? You think talking about race gives you a pass to say reckless things?" Joy's eyes widened. She retorted, "Reckless? I'm asking real questions, Sam. Isn't that what we're supposed to do here? Ask the tough ones." Samuel leaned forward, removing his sunglasses slowly, his gaze unwavering. "You're not asking questions. You're delivering accusations." With a smile, "You're trying to corner me into some guilt-ridden narrative like I owe you an apology for being successful while black." The audience murmured, some gasping, others clapping in agreement. The tension was now undeniable. Joy tried to salvage the moment with a chuckle, saying, "Don't take it personally, Sam," but he fired back, "That's the problem. People. Like you never take responsibility personally. You throw these loaded takes, and when folks clap back, you play the victim." That line stunned the table. Sunny Hostin dropped her pen. Sarah Ann awkwardly adjusted her seat. Whoopi's eyes narrowed. This wasn't going to end smoothly. Joy, flushed now, tempted to bring the conversation back to safe ground by pivoting to gun violence, citing Jackson's involvement in action movies filled with gunplay. Samuel visibly exhaled, trying to compose himself. "So now it's guns. Joy, you're throwing the entire liberal kitchen sink at me, huh?" he said with a grin that was more frustration than humor. "Let me break this down. I play characters. I didn't shoot anybody. I didn't rob anybody. But here you are, trying to tie me to every social problem in America like I'm some poster boy for your outrage checklist." Joy crossed her arms and said, "You don't get to opt out of criticism just because you're famous, Sam." To which Samuel responded, "And you don't get to hide behind criticism when you're being disrespectful." The temperature in the room dropped another 5 degrees. Asterisk at this point. Whoopi leaned forward and attempted to change the tone, bringing up Jackson's charity work and mentorship of young black actors. Samuel thanked her, but continued glaring. "At Joy, I've done more off-screen to help people than half of Hollywood combined," he said. "But you don't want to talk about that. You want to corner me into a box you built in your head." Joy, clearly unsettled, muttered, "Maybe we should take a break," to which Samuel replied, "Yeah, maybe you should." That mic drop moment brought the studio audience to an awkward silence. The camera cut away briefly to a wide shot, but the damage was done. Samuel began removing his mic, and Joy, realizing he was about to leave mid-segment, stood up as well, saying, "If you can't handle hard questions, maybe this isn't the right platform." Samuel paused, turned, and said with icy calm, "I've handled more heat than you'll ever understand. But I don't tolerate bad faith." Asterisk, he walked off the set as producers scrambled, the live feed cutting to commercial abruptly. Backstage. Sources later said Samuel calmly left the building, signed a few autographs, and told one assistant, "They invited Samuel L. Jackson and forgot who I was." A clip of the exchange exploded online. Within minutes, Twitter lit up with hashtags. Hashtag Samuel Vestjoy, hashtag View Blowup, and hashtag Jackson Walks Out. Clips were reposted across platforms. News outlets grabbed headlines like wildfire. And the comment sections became instant battlegrounds between Joy's defenders and Samuel's fans. The official View account posted a bland statement about passionate debate, but it wasn't enough to quiet the storm. Commentators from both the left and right weighed in, turning the moment into a litmus test for cultural discourse. The question loomed large: when does critique become provocation? Asterisk celebrities began picking sides. Viola Davis posted a cryptic tweet about performative outrage, which many interpreted as a dig at Joy. Jamie Foxx shared the clip of Samuel walking off with the caption, "Still the realest man in the room." Meanwhile, progressive media pundits criticized Samuel for walking away from accountability. But a surprising number of voices defended his choice to leave, citing that the interview had ceased to be about discourse and had turned into a trial. Even longtime View watchers said Joy had pushed too hard without listening. And in this moment of division, Samuel's silence became more powerful than words. He didn't make a statement, didn't grant interviews, didn't engage online. Instead, he let the moment speak for itself. Asterisk, the silence only amplified the conversation. Think pieces poured in. Columnists analyzed every angle: racial dynamics in media, the responsibility of public figures, the weaponization of allyship. Some criticized Joy for punching down, for using liberal rhetoric as a tool for dominance. Others said Samuel overreacted, that public figures must withstand discomfort. But what emerged more clearly than anything else was this: the public was tired of contrived outrage masked as conversation. And Samuel had shattered the illusion. At a time when most celebrities are tightly packaged and coached, his unscripted reaction reminded everyone of what authenticity looks like, even when it's messy. Especially when it's messy. Asterisk, days later, Joy addressed the moment on air with carefully rehearsed remarks. "We value strong opinions on this show," she began, "and sometimes we step on toes. That's not the intention, but we acknowledge when things go off course." There was no direct apology, no naming of Samuel, just a vague sentiment meant to soothe rather than repair. Whoopi remained neutral, Sunny supportive but cautious, and Sarah silent. The tension hadn't fully dissipated, and viewers could feel it. But ratings? They spiked. The View had stumbled into another moment of cultural reckoning, but this time it wasn't a scripted debate. It was real, raw, and unpredictable. Asterisk, weeks passed, but the moment didn't fade. Memes continued, discussions persisted, and Samuel's walk-off was dubbed the realest exit in daytime TV history. Journalists tried to get him to speak on the incident during red carpets and press junkets, but he declined every time with a simple nod or the phrase, "no comment." That silence became its own kind of statement, one that echoed louder than any tweet. Eventually, the View moved on. Other controversies took center stage, and the machine of media continued grinding forward. But the ghost of that clash remained, a reminder of what happens when two powerful voices refuse to back down. Asterisk, and for Samuel L. Jackson. It became yet another notch on his long belt of cultural moments. Not because he planned it, but because he refused to play the game. He'd shown up expecting a conversation and found himself in a confrontation. And instead of performing, he had chosen self-respect. That's what stuck with people. That's why it went viral. Not because of scandal, but because it was a rare glimpse of truth on a stage built for illusion.